You're listening to Empress Conversations podcast with your host, Maggie Peary. Conversations with Maggie. Yeah, yeah. Empress. Join us next time on the next episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. To learn more about guests or for more information on working with Maggie, go to www.empressconversationswithmaggie.com/get-started.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. Today, my guest is Alga Ghebretensae. She is originally from Eritrea, Africa. And let me share a little bit about Alga. By the age of 10, she had been to 4 different continents, but California is where she first called home in the United States. She spent her formidable years there and graduated high school, attended and graduated from the University of California at Davis. She moved to Atlanta in 2000 with only $1,000 in her pocket. Wow, just $1,000. It was Atlanta or bust. That was her mindset, literally. Within a week of the move, she got a corporate job. Within a year, she bought a home. And within 4 years, she was a landlord. Even though she had a good job, she knew early on that working 9 to 5 was not the right fit for her. And after almost 5 years in corporate, she got her real estate license and became a real estate agent. She had a great mentor, and real estate has opened doors for her, and it has given her what she truly values in life: freedom. Alga, welcome.
Hi, Maggie. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Alga, tell us more, your mindset when you first moved to Atlanta in 2000, $1,000, and that was it. How did you survive?
Well, I came here with a little plan. It wasn't just a 1,000 and I'm just going to go to Atlanta. I had a good friend that I had a friend here in Atlanta that needed a roommate. So I stayed with, it was a guy, I stayed with him for about a week until we found a location, an apartment that we could live in. And we did that, and I was able to get a job. So once I got a job, it was, I could pay my part of the rent and take care of myself. But it was tough. But when I first moved here, it was really tough. The first couple months was really tough because I didn't have a car. I didn't have a whole lot of friends here yet. So it was very challenging, but I wanted to move to Atlanta. I came to Atlanta in 96 for a wedding, and I was really impressed by the city. So I knew that I wanted to live here. So I did that. I just came, and I had some help, didn't have a car, like I said earlier. So I was taking a taxi, and there was a lovely man, African man, that I befriended, and he was really helpful. So I remember him fondly because when I didn't have something, he was there for me. So it was hard, but it was also a challenging time, but I really enjoyed, doing the move and being here and wanting to be here.
That's fantastic. One thing I have to ask you is, it seems you already had, like you mentioned, a plan in mind. So you went from your own home purchase, then you got your license, and then you moved on to the entire landlord. Talk to us a little bit about that progression. What point did you have a mentor or decide, I'm going to be under this person and learn as much as I can? Or did you just fumble your way through and, that's how it played out?
No, I did not have a plan for the real estate part. When I came here, like I was just a young lady who just wanted to be in Atlanta. So the job afforded me the opportunity to purchase a home. And when I came here in 2000, so by 2001, Atlanta was booming with, new constructions and, people asking if you wanted to buy. And honestly, I didn't have any clue of the home ownership process. I really thought, you have to have a whole bunch of money and have that in order to move forward. But a girlfriend of mine that I used to work with, she quit, and then she became a real estate licensed young lady. And so she asked me if I wanted to buy a house, and I'm like, okay. So basically, Like that was the whole process, the beginning of my real estate career. And once I purchased that property, which was in Kennesaw, my roommate moved in with me, so he was helping me with the bills. And I realized that Kennesaw was not the location I wanted to be in because traffic was horrendous. And I could tell you day one, I was like, what the heck did I do? And being social at the time, wanting to be out, be in Atlanta, in the city of Atlanta, it was really difficult being in a suburb where if you checked in, you didn't want to check out, it's like the drive would kill you. So I decided that I didn't want to live in Kennesaw anymore. And my mortgage lady, I asked her, I was like, I asked my real estate agent, I said, I want to sell this house. And she's like, well, why don't you talk to a mortgage lender and see what you could do, because I really only had lived there for 2 years. And I wanted to be close to my job. I don't like stress. I'm one of those people that just does not like stress. So my mortgage lady said, Olga, you can rent that house.
So Alga, do tell us, how did you start the process of wanting to be a landlord?
The way that started was, as I was saying earlier, I didn't want to live in Kennesaw anymore. So when I talked to my mortgage person that I was dealing with, she said, hey, Olga, you could rent your house and buy another one. Ding, 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 ding. I was like, this is great. So, and I didn't want to be a renter. I didn't want to go backward in the process. So I was like, I don't want to just go back and rent. So when she told me that, I was able to take some home equity line to put a down payment on my next house. And I found a HUD home, which was like 5 minutes literally from my job. And it was cheap, which I liked because I didn't want to overload myself with another mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I got into my second home. And I moved within like 3 years from there. And then I rented out my first house.
How cool was that? So you just were bold, nothing scared you. You just said, I'm going to do this. And that was it.
Yeah, I am a risk taker. I don't care about failing because you're going to fail. That's a given in life.
That's life. And there's something to be said about being an immigrant. You just, like you said initially, it's go big or go bust, right? You got nothing to lose either way. You're going to win big or you might fail.
Exactly.
So I applaud you for that. Now, for our listeners, I would like to introduce them to Next Door Storage. Alga is actually at least the only female business owner of a storage unit that I know of. Talk to us more about that. How did you transition there from homes, residential, into the storage business?
So I was in residential real estate once I quit my corporate job in 2005. I joined the guy that sold me my HUD property. I asked him, I said, hey, it seems like you're selling a lot of homes. So how do I get with you? Because I want to sell a lot of homes. And he's like, Olga, if you really want to do this, and if you really want to do sales and real estate, he said, you have to do this full time. There's no messing around, no part-time. So he said, when you're ready and you quit your job, you come see me. And that's what I did. I quit my job. No, I didn't quit my job. I asked for a layoff. They were laying off at the time. There was a lot of redundancy going on. So I asked them, I volunteer. And I was so happy to get the hell out of that corporate job, I'll tell you. So once I did that and I joined his company within the first, let's say, first 5 days, I had like 4 houses under contract.
Oh, wow.
I was really excited. And the reason for that is because he had like a really niche market, which was selling HUD homes. And at the time, there were not that many people doing foreclosure stuff in 2005. Everybody was doing all these other real estate. So when I joined him, very small company, and he was a really good mentor for me because he just taught me about real estate, what to do, what not to do, buy for yourself and rent. So I bought that first HUD house from him. and I bought another one from him. And then I started, buying on my own. And then, of course, the recession happened, and everybody was a specialist in foreclosure. So the market was flooded, and I really was not into residential anymore, because what I was, a niche agent in, which I dealt with a lot of investors. Yeah, I mean, I had like investors buying for me like 4 or 5 houses a year. So it was pretty awesome. I was lucky to be in that section of real estate, because I wasn't fighting for, the residential, the regular residential, the Keller Williams and all this other stuff. So once I was doing that, and I was successful in it, I thought I was successful in it, which I really didn't think I would be good in sales. I'm not a salesperson, but I loved what I was selling, and I knew, ownership was something that, could give you power and give you freedom. Owning something will give you equity for, in investing in real estate. So once like I said, the recession occurred, like I said, I wasn't really into the residential anymore. And for 5 years, I really wasn't doing much of anything. I just had properties that I purchased during the recession, because they were like dirt cheap. And I figured if I bought houses and rented them, I could lose. So I had money from credit cards that I took out. I bought houses with a home equity line that I took out before everything was getting shut down, that I bought houses with. So by the time the recession happened, I had, I think, about 7 houses.
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
little houses too. They weren't like big mansions. It was something that I felt that I could afford. And I want to stress that to people, because a lot of time people invest in something that is more than what they could chew. And it's important that you just kind of stay in your lane and just buy what you could afford. Let's say if something happens, something tragic, something financial, that you can't take care of the property, or have the money to do so. If you don't have a renter, for example, and then you have a vacant house and you have to pay the mortgage and all this stuff. So I've always stayed in that, and like in small, and just build on that. So when the recession happened, really, I could live off my rental income. So I wasn't really bothered, to tell you the truth, about hustling and trying to be in a market where everybody was doing what I used to do, which I thought was, unique, right? So once I just kind of stayed off real estate for a while, one day, I don't know how, I don't know if I was reading commercial stuff, I wanted to kind of explore, I want to do commercial, because residential and commercial are 2 different entities. We don't mix. There are some people that do residential and commercial.
So with the residential and commercial side of real estate, do tell us more.
Well, like I said, a commercial and a residential are 2 different entities. I mean, they actually should be like, of course, where they say, if you want to go to commercial, go this way. And if you want to do residential, do this. But I really never would have thought of doing commercial. But I just thought one day, like, let me call some of these companies and see what is out there. What is commercial? Why is it different? Because there are like a whole bunch of companies that do absolutely only commercial. So one day I just cold called a company, and I said, listen, I am interested in joining a commercial company. Can you tell me more about your company? And he just went ahead and told me, and I said, okay, well, I'm kind of interested. So what's next? And he said, give me a resume. I hadn't had a resume in like 10 years. And I said, okay. I said, I'll get it to you in 48 hours. And I dusted my resume and sent it to him. And I met with him, and that was how I joined a commercial real estate company. And luck would have it, I joined a team because I was new to commercial. I needed training, and this company did give a great training session. But like I said, commercial is so different than residential because one, they require you that you have a college degree, and they recruit these kids, these college kids, at a really early age. So, I was in my 40s, and I'm in training with these 20-year-olds, right? Young and impressionable, because they want to train them from the get-go. So for me, it was a little different. It's very corporate, one thing, because you have to be there 9 to 5. You have to make a certain amount of calls and all this other stuff. So you had to be, I didn't have that freedom that I always wanted, which in residential, you're pretty much your own boss. But in commercial, I had to join a team, and the team required me to be there 9 to 5, which in the beginning was fine because I really was yearning for change. And the team I was with was the self-storage team. And I was like, I'm a lucky girl because I never knew this asset even existed. As well, you see it, right? I've rented public storage before. I've paid my money to these companies, but I never thought selling them. I never even contemplated the idea. But from that team, I learned a lot. I was out there. They gave me a certain section of the state or Alabama, and I drove around, met with storage owners, and a lot of them, 78% of storage owners are mom and pop.
When I think of, and I guess this makes sense because if somebody is listening to this, and much like myself, from your commercial side experience, when I think of storage owners, I think of the hot TV show Storage Wars. So is it really like that, where once a month or a quarter you get to open up all these storage units that people have not paid for? What is that like? What is that entire word like? Or is that really just the TV show making it seem that way? But I'm sure, unfortunately, for whatever circumstance, people cannot pay that fee or whatever. What happens to all their stuff? Is it auctioned off just like on the show?
Unfortunately, yes. A lot of it now is done online. So there's no on-site auction or blind auction. So pretty much if somebody cannot meet their payments or their agreement, there's a process that a landlord has to go through before they could auction their stuff. It's not like, oh, they're 30 days late, let me put their stuff on an auction site. You would have to send them letters. You have to publish it in the public notice in your local newspaper. And this process has to go through. And if you're giving them chances, hey, come get your stuff, and I'll be willing to work with them if they want to come and say, hey, I could pay you this amount, but I'll get my stuff out. Fine, because when you auction them, you really are not getting a whole lot of money for it. And I kind of feel bad because people put their personal lives in there. So I do make attempts for them to come in and get their stuff. But that's the process. Unfortunately, if they don't pay, you do have to auction their stuff off.
In your experience, how many women have you met or know of that are actually, in this business? Because quite honestly, you're the first woman I've known who actually has a functioning, successful business being a storage unit owner.
In my selling experience, when I was meeting owners, not a whole lot. It was typically, like I said, mom and pops, and it was, a family-owned business where it was a husband and wife team. And the ones that really are buying actually are men, I haven't met a whole lot, maybe one or two. I think I met that are actually the ladies in charge. I think you see that more now because a lot of people are aware of this business and how profitable it is. Compared to being a landlord on a house where, you have to repair this and that, and toilets, and here is like people store their stuff, and it can be years before they move out. It happens. I mean, talking to owners, they've told me stories where they've had one guy be there for 20, 30 years because they're keeping stuff that is personal to them. And that's the thing about storage, is it's like sentimental values that people keep paying on, which is probably not worth the payment each month, which I shouldn't say this as a business owner, but that's what it is. It's like, you move, you put your stuff somewhere, and you just keep paying and paying and paying until, I don't know, something happens. But yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting business, but it's a very simple business. Very simple.
On the flip side of it, as the owner, it's actually a very good business model, because every month you're going to get that reoccurring income, right? So on your end, it's absolutely a great investment, kind of like being a gym owner in January and you see all these signups, and then by April nobody's there. So that's really interesting. But is it just because, if a young lady is listening now and probably thinking this is something that I want, because your thing is you wanted freedom, but how does that work, considering if you're on site, or, I mean, these days, thank goodness, because of technology, you can have cameras, and I'm sure you're quite secure in your location, but how does it work day to day?
Well, I've owned it just about a year and maybe 4 months. So when I purchased it, which is a really interesting story, I was actually going to the owner to see if he wanted to sell, and I wanted to list it for him, not even to purchase it. But when I went there, I just realized it looked like it was vacant, like nobody was manning this place, like nobody was taking care of it. And there wasn't. So I kept calling the owner. It took about a whole month. I kept calling him. He was on vacation or something. But finally, he returned my call, and I said, "Hey, are you interested in selling?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I said, "How much do you want for it?" I didn't tell him how much I think it was worth. I was like, "How much do you want for it?" And he told me, and I'm like, "I can get you a contract tomorrow because I really want to buy this house." It was a really good deal. And the funny thing about it is, my first house that I bought in Kennesaw, someone offered me the same amount of money that this guy is saying that he wants for this storage facility. So I saw it as a sign. I'm like, okay. And I really wasn't making a whole lot of money on this Kennesaw house. I just was keeping it because I had a tenant that was there for 12 years. And I love this woman. I mean, she was just like family to me. And I knew that rental prices were going up, and I really didn't want to put her out. And I gave her the option if she wanted to buy the house, and she couldn't. So I just said, "Hey, I can sell this house and buy this storage facility, and the money that I can make is humongous." I mean, I'm happy with my investment. I'm really, really happy. So it's like my first house bought me the self-storage facility, basically the first investment that I made in real estate. So going back to your question,
point during your real estate career, you were very successful. So what do you consider successful? Is it a number? Was it like, once I hit six figures, then I'll consider myself successful? Was it an X amount of homes that you sold? I really would love to get an idea of what that thing is that you consider success as a business person.
Sure. For me, as long as I can pay my bill, I find it successful. I never had like goals or numbers or what have you. As long as I could take care of myself and I'm free to do my own thing, I think that always has worked for me. I've never been scared of losing. So not that I'm saying that I'm always winning, but it's just like I'm never fearful like something bad is going to happen. So I think maybe that's what keeps me going. But as long as I can pay my bills and have extra money to travel, I think that's successful to me. And that's work for me.
Well, since I did ask about success, the next thing I'm going to ask you is, at what point did you really have an obstacle, a challenge in where you're like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get out of this situation? And you were able to pivot it. Would you consider what was the lesson that you learned in business that you were like, if this ever happens again, okay, thank goodness for experience, you're able to turn it around. But what was that one thing that really brought you down to your knees with the business world to be able to crawl your way out of it, so to speak?
Um, I could say like my first renter, I just didn't handle it like a business. It became like really personal at times.
Mm.
And we would just have like these fighting matches,
Oh dear.
and yeah. And so that wasn't fun. And I had to check myself and say, you know what, this is just a business. It's not personal. Whatever they do, either you're just a landlord, they pay you rent, you fix the house, and this is what it is. So once I figured that out, I think it was much easier because Atlanta has not always been a landlord market like it is right now. Right now, landlords are, getting so many options that they could do whatever it is. But in the beginning, it was, as my friend calls it, Afghanistan.
Oh wow.
Because it's really tough because like you just, especially when you purchase in certain areas of the city, the quality of tenants are not, a lot of quality. So you had a lot of challenges, with evictions, with people just damaging your property. So for me, like that, the beginning where I kind of realized that it's a business, not personal. I treated my tenants differently because once they're in my house, I don't want to get upset with them or they get upset with me that they take it personal and start putting holes in the walls or tearing out stuff and just doing what humans do, out of anger. So that was a big lesson for me. Just kind of.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Olga, because oftentimes as women, there is a fine line, and I don't know how men master this, between either you're a service provider, the relationship between the landlord and the resident. There's this fine line where like everybody has, if you're the landlord, oh, this and this happened, my car broke down, I couldn't get to work, and I can't pay this month rent. Everybody has a story, but learning to separate the two. I'm a landlord, I gotta do XYZ, it really is a challenge because most of the time we're compassionate and you want to listen to this story and you get pulled into this never ending well. And if either way, whatever industry it is, if it's service, if it's the landlord relationship, there has to be that fine line to say, this is business at the end of the day. Business is business. And now you still have responsibilities. You still need your mortgage paid. You need food in your refrigerator. So it's really a tough call right there, but it seems as though that was one that you learned early on to be able to separate between the two.
Exactly. Even like when I had to evict people, you see like landlords and tenants all mad at each other. I would just go up to the tenant. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? Are you staying and you're going to pay me, or are you going? One or the other. I mean, we sit together and discuss what they want to do. And that's worked for me. Sometimes they say, well, I'll go, we can't pay you, we don't have the money, we got to go. And that's fine. But I always respect people so that I would get that respect back. Even if I don't, I mean, at the end of it all, they're human, they're going through some things. Maybe I don't have those challenges, but some people do. So basically, like, I just talk to them like how I would talk to my friend, yes, I could be angry. Yeah, I should be angry because they owe me a certain amount of money, but it is what it is. It's business.
It is.
At the end, it's like you can't force them to do something, and that's what it is. And just you have to realize that if you want to be.
As we get ready to wrap up here, what parting words would you like our listening audience and those who are watching to hear from you?
Don't be afraid of change. Change is always good. Be a solution driven person. So like when you have a challenge, you have to find a solution. Either it might not be the solution you want, but find a solution. And don't envy. Don't envy others, because if you envy one thing about somebody else, you have to take the challenges they're going through. You don't know what everybody is going through. So, I mean, just walk your own path. I know that's too many, but walk your own path. I think that's probably like the best thing I could tell people. It's like, you know what you need to do. I hear like people throwing like, oh, you've got to follow your passion. But I mean, that's just so loose to me. What's passion? I mean, what really is that? If it's something you want to do now, because that could change. So going back, change is good. Follow your path and just keep going.
So Alga, how can people get in contact with you? You are located in Atlanta, in Austell, Georgia. How do people reach you if they're interested in getting a unit from you or contacting you? What is the best way that our listeners could get a hold of you?
Sure. My self-storage facility is called Next Door Self-Storage in Austell, Georgia. It's on Veteran Memorial Highway. And they could contact me. I have a website. It's www.nextdoorstoragega.com. They could contact me through there, and my phone number is there. It's 770-655-3758. And if they want to talk about real estate or just want to learn a little bit more about how to get into self-storage, I'm happy to help.
Alga, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you again.
Thank you for having me, Maggie. This has been fun.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, everyone, you heard it here first. So be sure to go to the website, Empress Conversations with Maggie, for more information on Alga and ways that you can work with me. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
You're listening to Empress Conversations podcast with your host, Maggie Peary. Conversations with Maggie. Yeah, yeah. Join us next time on the next episode of Empress Conversations with Maggie. To learn more about guests or for more information on working with Maggie, go to www.empressconversationswithmaggie.com/get-started.